6 a.m. as we get you up and get you going, starting a brand new week off of a busy sports weekend. South Carolina baseball taking place, the Masters taking place. We had parades taking place. It was a good time here as we moved on from college basketball, got rid of that, moved on from the Final Four and all that good stuff, and we just locked in on golf and baseball, and hopefully you had quite the nice weekend. The weather was, by and large, fantastic, at least here in the Midlands. So welcome in. We'll get you up and get you going here this morning as we'll have plenty to talk about. Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, expecting Preston Thorne to join us via the phone lines here in the next hour, and then Jamie Bradford, as usual, from 7 to 8 a.m., and we'll talk a lot about that baseball series down in Gainesville, where the Gamecocks go down and take two of three from the Florida Gators. First time South Carolina has won a series in Gainesville since 2011. I mean, how about that? It's been a long time since South Carolina has gone down to Gainesville and won a baseball series, not a game, not just a game, but a baseball series. And we'll let you hear a little bit from Mark Kingston this morning as South Carolina just kind of continues to roll along in a way. It might not be perfect. It might not be what everybody wants, but last week you pick up the big neutral site victory over North Carolina up in Charlotte. North Carolina at that point was ranked 13th, and then you go on the road and you take 2 of 3 from the 24th ranked Florida Gators. Now you get set for a week that will feature the Citadel down in Charleston. We'll go down to Jamie Bradford's area down there and take on the Bulldogs 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. And then you get maybe the best team in college baseball, at least according to some of the rankings right now, the number one Arkansas Razorbacks, who actually lost 2 of 3 over the weekend on the road at Alabama. They won their midweek game, San Jose State 5-1, but then dropped 2 of 3 to Alabama over the weekend. 5-3 was their victory, but then lost 4-3 and 5-0. So some people think Arkansas is the best team in the country. Well, guess what? They roll into Founders Park this coming weekend to take on the Gamecocks. Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. Both the Friday and the Saturday games will be on SEC Network Plus, as well as the Sunday game. So we'll talk more about that, obviously, the week goes on. But another big series. Act like it's just one, and then they'll go back to regular life. No, it's just another in a string of SEC series. So we'll get more into that. Obviously, national story over the weekend was the Masters. Scottie Scheffler was the large favorite going into the Masters, and he takes home the green jacket. Shoots 11 under for the entire weekend, a 4-stroke victory over Ludvig Åberg. And I actually paid attention yesterday. I paid close attention to understand how to say Åberg's name because, well, otherwise I'd be sitting right here with you telling you it's Aberg. According to Vern and Mike Tirico and the whole gang who announced the broadcast for 4 days, it's Åberg. Thank goodness I listened. But he shoots 7 under. Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa all shoot 4 under. Cam Smith, Bryson DeChambeau, both 2 under. Xander Schauffele, 1 under. And then you had a group there at even. Zalatoris, Tyrell Hatton, and Cam Young all even to wrap up the players that shot under par. It was not a good weekend for Dustin Johnson. Makes me wonder where Dustin's at with golf these days. Dustin Johnson did not make the cut and, quite frankly, was one of the worst golfers in the field. He was just a few golfers worse than him. He shoots 78, 79. But Dustin's legacy was already secure when he went to Live Golf. But it does make me wonder. I did not know of any injury that he sustained that would have caused that. Tiger Woods makes the cut. Impressive job by him to make the cut. And then I think what we all kind of expected, what most of you thought would happen, the body just gives out. And he ends up shooting an 82 yesterday to finish plus 16. He shot 82 on Saturday, not yesterday. 73-72 on Thursday, Friday. Was kind of hanging around, was plus 1. I don't know if I really considered him to be in the mix or if I really thought he would make some kind of weekend run, but he efficiently eliminated himself on Saturday with an 82 and shot 77 yesterday. Rough going for Tiger Woods. He finishes plus 16. That was actually dead last for those that made the cut. But good to see him make the cut. Good to see him around for the weekend. Last year's champion, Jon Rahm, just could never get it going. 73, 76. He did get into the weekend, but then after an even round 72 on Saturday, he shoots 76 on Friday to fall apart, and he is plus 9. He hands back over the green jacket to Scotty Scheffler, and that'll be the story. Scheffler waiting on the birth of his first child, gets it done. 66, 72, 71, 68, just kind of efficiently does what he does, just fairways, greens, makes putts, and rolls to an 11-under Masters victory. That'll be his second green jacket of his career. We'll talk a little bit about the significance of that with Jamie Bradford. So a lot to get to as we roll along this morning. If you want to be a part of the program, 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you want to do so, whether it's on the Masters or whether it was on South Carolina baseball. Once again, the Gamecocks, I don't know if they'll move. I think they're in one poll. There's too many baseball polls. I think they'll move back into most polls. But they just kind of continue again to kind of chug along and get things done in the SEC. Right now, not a bad place for them. I know people want more than what is kind of occurring, but South Carolina baseball is not in a bad place as we sit here wrapping up the final weekend of April. You look across the board at kind of what's going on in baseball. And right now, the standings, the Eastern Division, Kentucky leading the way, 13-1 in conference, 29-5 overall. Tennessee, 10-5 in conference, 30-6 overall. And then you've got a tie there for third place between Vanderbilt, who's 8-7, and the Gamecocks, who are 8-7. The Commodores 26-10 on the season. The Gamecocks 25-11. Georgia, Florida, and Missouri round out the bottom half of the SEC East. Arkansas leading the West right now, 12-3 in conference, 30-5 overall, followed by Texas A&M, who's 11-4. 32-4 in conference, and then Mississippi State, Alabama, Mississippi, LSU, who is 3-12 in conference and 22-15 overall, and Auburn 2-12, 18-16 overall. So there's your kind of rundown on the SEC baseball standings. And again, we'll talk more about that with Jamie Bradford coming up here in about 40 minutes, 50 minutes. 803-404-6100. Let's go out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Gamecock Larry ready to weigh in this morning. Gamecock Larry, how you feeling? How you doing?
I'm feeling okay. Parade, I didn't get to go, but Root Hall called me and said they was outstanding. There was a large crowd, pretty good crowd, and he told me Clemson got swept. I don't know. I do know they lost the first two games. We won the first two games, so that's 4. We lost one, it's 4-1. And if Clemson got swept,
they did not. I'll help you. They won yesterday, 7-0.
Oh, okay. So we 4-2. But yeah, we in a good place. But let me tell you, I've watched it. I don't know how and why we in this shape, but I'm gonna say it, and I ain't gonna say nothing else the rest of this year. If Kingston lasts this year, if we go to a regional, if we go to a super regional, and we have to go to the College World Series for him to keep his job. He is not a Gamecock coach. Going into I think this is the 6th or the 7th weekend series. And what they do bringing in Becker out of the bullpen for Becker, I don't know. He don't know. I don't know. I'm going to say it. At the end of the year, Kingston got to go. I ain't going to say no more. I don't care if it goes to the World Series. Kingston got to go.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. And I love y'all. I love the Gamecocks. This is not Gamecock baseball. They should have won. They should have swept Florida. But I don't know why somebody made a decision to do this and do that, and it all falls back on the head man. All I got to say, love all y'all. Go Gamecocks. Talk to you later. Go Gamecocks.
Sounds good. 803-404-6100. Now you can weigh in. I don't agree with that. I think you still let it I think you still let it play out here. South Carolina's fine. They're fine. As I just mentioned here, you look across baseball. Right now, the Gamecocks 25-11, 8-7 in conference play. You got to just let the season continue to play out. It's not going to be easy. Arkansas, I just mentioned. I'm looking at the D1 baseball poll where the Razorbacks are number 1 in the country. Clemson was number 2. You go down the list of that. Texas A&M was 3, Tennessee 4, and Oregon State 5. But you just let the thing play out. That's all you can do. South Carolina's in a fine position. They are easily projected to be in the NCAA tournament right now, not projected to host a regional. But you've got this series. Obviously, I just mentioned Arkansas coming up. Kentucky wrapping things up at the end of the month, the 26th, 27th, 28th. Then you go into the month of May, and you'll have that trip to Missouri that you should go out there and have success. I know Jamie Bradford and others have talked about how awful the baseball environment is there at Missouri. And then you got a series against Georgia, May 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's right back here at Founders Park. And you wrap up the season with a trip up to Knoxville. So I guess you kind of say that maybe you get a little bit of a breather there with the trip to Missouri and with the Georgia series. I don't know in SEC play if there's ever such a thing as a breather. But, again, I mentioned as we sit here today, Missouri 16-21 overall. Georgia 27-9, both of those teams with losing SEC records, and that's something that obviously kind of should give South Carolina a chance to finish stronger. Obviously, as I've just mentioned, this weekend it's Arkansas number 1 in the country. Next weekend it's Kentucky coming off of a weekend sweep of Auburn, so maybe they move up in this D1 baseball poll a little bit. They did lose a midweek game on the road at Samford, but the Wildcats 30-5 on the season. And again, they're coming off of a sweep of Auburn. Arkansas coming off of a series loss to Alabama. 803-404-6100. Clemson Allen saying Gamecock Larry in the dumps this morning. Yeah, we'll get him up. We'll get sometimes Gamecock Larry just got to get up and get that liver pudding and grits going and get himself in the mood, and he can do it. We've seen him do it before. 803-404-6100. You're listening to Bill Gunner. She's Jen Jensen. Preston Thorne may join us on the phone lines. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet. It is that time of the year where you start thinking about summer vacations and how you're going to get there. And the only way to do it is with a fantastic vehicle from Love Chevrolet. It is the Springtacular sale going on, and with 14 acres of brand new Chevys, you're guaranteed to find the car, truck, or SUV that you've been looking for. What's even better, not only does Love Chevrolet offer you the largest selection of vehicles anywhere in the Midlands, they offer you the absolute best pricing. Of course, they will have the $1,000 low price guarantee, which means you can shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it. But Love Chevrolet has always treated their customers with integrity, with honesty, with respect, and they do it by not selling above MSRP. So you know you're getting the absolute best deal, whether it's a Silverado, a Trailblazer, a Tahoe, whatever it is, you're going to find it. So get out to Love Chevrolet today, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, and together, let's drive.
And we don't really see too many major slowdowns. We do have an accident that's been reported, Blue Ridge Terrace at Monticello Road. What a forecast we have on tap. Sunny skies, 89 today, 88 tomorrow, 85 on Wednesday, potentially 91 on Thursday, staying in the upper 80s really until about through Saturday. Then we start dipping into the 70s next weekend. But wow, starting to get a little taste of summer this week and start off the morning at 58 on the early game.
His stardom confirmed.
That's 27-year-old Scotty Scheffler wrapping it up yesterday with his second Masters title, as he will put himself in a different kind of lure. Now he goes for other majors. He has yet to win. He's had a second-place tie at the PGA Championship back in 2023, a second-place tie back in 2022, and the Open Championship, the British Open, the Open Championship, his best has been a tie for 8th in 2021. So now Scotty Scheffler will move on to trying to accomplish winning other majors. And as I said, 27 years of age, he will turn 28 in June of this year. So a lot still to be accomplished, but one thing for sure, it looks like Scotty Scheffler has dominated the Masters now, winning 2 of the last 3 green jackets, and probably will be the favorite when they go back there again. The other cool thing was he is doing it while expecting a child. So really cool moment yesterday for Scotty Scheffler. A lot of fun to watch. I will say I'm not sure, and I'm interested, 803-404-6100. Where did you stand with the Masters? Because especially for us, a lot of us around here, maybe not in the Grand Strand or in Florence, but here in Columbia, because of the proximity to Augusta, because of the ability to get down there, a lot of people who are casual golf fans have even made the trip once or twice in their lifetime just to check it out, to walk around the grounds, to see what it's all about. And because of that, maybe there's a little more interest in Augusta National and in the Masters than it would so be, like for a U.S. Open or the Open Championship or a PGA, because it's, even though it's not technically in the state of South Carolina, it's in Augusta, it's an event that's close to home. And so I wonder how you, if you do enjoy it, how you consume the Masters. Were you into it more than usual? I don't know if I would label it the most exciting Masters. There was a moment yesterday where it looked like it was going to be really good early on. You had a 4-way tie up there. You had Oberg, you had Scheffler, you had Homa, you had Morikawa, all kind of in the mix. And then in their own different ways, they kind of backed themselves out, and Scotty Scheffler was able to move forward and keep pulling ahead. But I don't know. I watched a good bit of it. I watched a lot of it, actually, this past weekend. I'm just not sure how I feel about it. I'm not sure that I'm overly excited for where golf is. I've been kind of waiting for this moment. I enjoy golf. I've said it before. I think I like golf more from the standpoint of on Thursday and Friday, it's something for me to have on television starting around 3 or 4 o'clock than it is for something for me to actually sit down and watch, just have on in the background if I'm doing something or taking an afternoon nap or whatever. It's more of that. But even this year, I've had a harder time really getting into golf. And I thought Jon Rahm really said it correctly at the beginning of the week when basically saying that they've got to figure something out, that golf as a whole is losing fans. And I get it if you're the casual fan, you say, I'm really not invested in it at all. But if you're kind of like me and you watch more than what I would say the average person does, then I feel like that's a really, really bad place. And you got a fun tournament this week. If anybody's ever been, obviously, the Heritage down in Hilton Head, the RBC Heritage, Matt Fitzpatrick, the reigning champion. It is a signature event, so you'll have it should have all the big names. We'll get the tee times here, I believe, later today or tomorrow for the RBC Heritage and see who gets paired up with whom and who you can get down and catch on Thursday and Friday. But it was fun to have the Masters on this weekend, but I don't know if I ever really felt like I had to be watching, aside from the fact that I was going to be talking about it this morning. 803-404-6100. By the way, the PGA Championship up next. Reigning champion Brooks Koepka. That will take place at Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, Kentucky. And then, of course, that'll be followed by the trip to Pinehurst number 2. The U.S. Open taking place June 13th through the 16th. And, of course, again, we'll conclude the majors at Royal Troon out in Troon, Scotland for the Open Championship. 803-404-6100. Richard weighs in and said the Masters was great because the course played a lot harder this year. It's become more about beauty and not toughness of a course for a major. So I was glad to see the high winds and firm greens make it a tough course. It was all right. It was all right. It wasn't. Again, like I said, Thursday, obviously, because of the wins, Thursday and Friday were very interesting to see who played well and who backed up. And at that point, it was fun to see Tiger kind of battle everything. And then when you got the better weather yesterday and Saturday, you saw him kind of fall apart. Gene weighs in and says, can we finally put the Tiger tracker away at the Masters? The king is dead. Long live the king. Yeah, he made the cut, and then it just felt like the body gave out on him, especially on Saturday. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Ted wants to weigh in this morning. Ted, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Good morning, Bill. I'd agree with everything you just said, actually. In fact, that's what I was going to say about the Masters, but I loved it yesterday. I've watched it. That's the one golf team that I always watch. But the number of our stars that we have on the PGA, when all those guys left, the interest has just fell off. Now, we got some great young golfers that I enjoy watching. I think the young kid from Finland yesterday, at times I found myself really pulling for him when he made that eagle and got really close. It really made the tournament real exciting. But I love Schaefer too. He's so damn good. It's unreal. And his putt, if he was a little bit better putter, my God, nobody would ever beat the guy. And it's hard as heck to beat him now, and his putting has improved tremendously. But I don't want to just talk the whole time like I always have to do, it looks like. But whatever, I just wanted to mention that, and I wanted to say something about the baseball team because I was watching the golf with my girl. And I had to watch the Masters with her, and I'd go back and forth and watch the baseball game. And it's not only yesterday's baseball game, but I've noticed there's been several games. What kind of frustrates me is I think our pitching coach has done a fabulous job, and I think our pitchers are really good. And I love that Gainey guy that just throws the heck out of the ball at left-hander. And there's some good – but the only thing I don't really understand is I watched one particular bat yesterday, and the pitcher threw like 0-2 on the guy. And then he throws the same pitch, the same speed 3 times in a row. And the guy fouled off all 3 of them. Then you say, throw the ball out of the zone once in a while. Throw him a low curveball or a high fastball. And then on the next pitch, he throws it, same pitch right down the middle. The guy gets a double. And that guy ended up being the 11th run, which turned out wouldn't have mattered anyway. But what do you think about that? It seems like our pitchers always want to throw and strike the guy out real quick. Like they don't want to waste a bunch of pitches. And our batters, they sit there and take 2-3 strikes. Most of the time, they strike out more than any team I've ever seen. So it's kind of like one coach does one way and the other coach does the other way for our team. What do you think about that, Bill? Really, I mean, I know you're a baseball fanatic like me too. And does that make sense to you? We don't ever seem to throw the waste pitch. And Gainey's the same way. He's great and throws the heck out of that ball. But sometimes I see him do the same identical thing. They'll get an 0-2 count and will never throw a waste pitch. I do not understand that. What do you think about that? I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Ted. I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know Matt Williams' strategy when it comes to how he wants to attack the batter. I'll ask Jamie Bradford that in the next hour. You know, whether his strategy is much like you're talking about, going directly after him, after the batter, and not. I've never thought to really ask. Of course, I don't go to press conferences, so I couldn't ask. But with what you're asking, I think it's a legitimate question to know what Matt Williams prefers to do. When you have arms, and I do think South Carolina has plenty of arms, quality arms, yet maybe you are willing to take chances and let your pitchers throw more pitches than they typically would and do what you were talking about, throwing a waste pitch on an 0-2 count or even a 1-2 count if necessary to try and get a guy swinging away as opposed to looking. I was glancing real quick just to see the strikeout as we wrap up that series, the strikeout to walk ratio right now for the Gamecocks, and it's 363 strikeouts. Make sure I'm scrolling down to 135 walks. So if I'm just doing that, I believe that's roughly a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio there for South Carolina. But continue listening, because I'll ask Jamie Bradford his opinion on that as well. He might know a little bit more about the strategy that Matt Williams wants to imply to put in terms of how South Carolina goes about attacking batters. Now, of course, you can tend to change that up a little bit depending on the batter that you're facing and the situations, but I think it's a legitimate question, certainly with these pitchers and the way things have been going. You're right. They've had some really good performances, and then also we've seen them get knocked around a little bit. So we'll talk more about that as we roll through the show. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into some football as well. Spring practice will wrap up this Saturday for the Gamecocks. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. That's right. AAA Heating and Air has taken care of my family. They'll do the exact same thing for you. And right now they are offering an incredible deal going on. You can call 803-677-1500. You can get new comfort in your home tomorrow with a phone call today. Just tell them you heard it here on 107.5 The Game with Bill Gunner and take advantage of that deal. That's right. The rest of 2025, the rest of 2024, you don't have to make a payment, nor do you have any interest until 2025. What a great deal, and you can take advantage of it today by calling AAA Heating and Air, 803-677-1500. Again, get in touch with them. Tell them you heard it right here on 107.5 The Game with Bill Gunner, and take advantage of getting new comfort in your home tomorrow with a phone call today. That's AAA Heating and Air, 803-677-1500.
Blue Ridge Terrace at Monticello Road. There is an accident there, but aside from that, nothing else to complain about. We hope that stays that way for your Monday morning. But man, what a forecast. Sunny, 89 today. It's going to be 88 tomorrow, 85 on Wednesday. Could hit 91 for Thursday. And we keep these warmer temperatures really until about Sunday when we get back into the 70s and some chances for showers, but not going to focus on that right now. It is 58 on the early game right now.
Eight zero 404 6100, how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. Reminder, you can go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens FCU Grand Slam giveaway. Every game, $25 is added to the pot, and if a South Carolina hitter rips a Grand Slam, you can win all the cash in the pot. You just got to go and register. So go to 1075thegame.com and get registered. They've not had a Grand Slam this year. No Grand Slams. The pot is now $900. It's getting up there. You want to go and get registered today. Again, go to 1075thegame.com and register the Palmetto Citizens FCU Grand Slam giveaway. And speaking of which, reminder, tomorrow, South Carolina on the road down in Charleston, 6:45 pregame to take on Citadel, 7 o'clock first pitch. And again, that'll be tomorrow night, South Carolina and Citadel down in Charleston, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. And we'll talk more about that with Jamie Bradford when he joins us in the next hour. We'll talk about what Ted was asking, which is a legitimate question about maybe Matt Williams' pitching philosophy and how he wants to attack the batter. But real quick, let's take a little drive kind of around Steele, one of Jay Phillips' segments, a little drive around the SEC this weekend. Several spring games taking place. And let's start at Alabama, where Alabama has a new head football coach, Kalen DeBoer. This weekend on Saturday, Kalen DeBoer assessed the spring game for the Crimson Tide. Here's what Kalen DeBoer described on what he saw in his first spring game as Alabama head football coach.
Scrimmage-wise, shoot, if it was a half, right, it'd been a tale of two halves. But that's why I keep playing. So many things that we're going to get to learn from this scrimmage. Depending on what side of the ball you're on. So I think overall, I was trying to keep track during, so I might be off, but I think we had 6 penalties between the two sides, which over whatever is 85 plays probably roughly. Kind of guessing that's not too bad. That's actually, improved each and every scrimmage. So I'm looking at those things and where we're improving. Rushing touchdowns offensively, the response defensively, getting down early, and some of those things. Little things that the game brings with the TV. ESPN broadcasting it, and us working through TV timeouts and when to take the huddle and just talking through that. Right now, not that big of a deal if we're out there standing over the ball, but it will be this fall. And just a lot of things with guys who have never had that game action, starting from the quarterbacks to, the rest of offense and defensive sides. So, I thought it was a good overall scrimmage. Again, both sides kind of had their moments. So.
That's Kalen DeBoer assessing what he saw at the Alabama spring game. Now, on the opposite side of that, the team that I think still is the team to beat in the SEC, Georgia, Kirby Smart, took his approach and talked about the Georgia spring game. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say regarding Georgia's spring game.
Thought our players handled it the right way. I wanted to handle it like a game, very game-like situations. The next time we put on those uniforms, it'll be for real, and we'll be playing in Atlanta, I guess, a really good opponent. So we want to find out where we are as a team and get a lot of guys reps. We're kind of where we got guys that have got a lot of work and a lot of reps, fifth-year, fourth-year guys, and then we've got about 40 guys that are in their first year. So the discrepancy between old and young is really great. I thought the defense played much better today than they did in previous scrimmages in terms of energy, enthusiasm, running to the ball. We rushed the passer better today. Offense probably didn't have as good a day as maybe they've had in the two scrimmages, but some of that was dictated by the terms of which we scrimmaged with, which was passing and loose plays, and they did a nice job handling that in the second half. But overall, I don't evaluate things on today. I know you guys will ask questions and talk about today. For me, it was about the entire spring, 15 practices. Very pleased with our health coming out of it.
And that's Kirby Smart. You heard him mention that opening in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Time has not been announced yet, but remember, that is Georgia and Clemson. So Dabo Swinney with kind of his new-look team, I guess, if you will. Matt Luke will be making his second appearance there as offensive line coach. Chris Rumpf back. Everything going on with the Tigers as they look to bounce back from their season. Well, they'll get those Georgia Bulldogs an opening weekend. As we have now transitioned out, we've moved past the Masters. We get the Heritage this weekend. It is kind of fun to take a quick glance. By the way, opening weekend, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, week 0, Florida State at Georgia Tech over in Dublin, Ireland. You get an SMU. Remember, new ACC team, SMU at Nevada to August 24th. You also got Montana State, New Mexico, Delaware State, and Hawaii. But opening weekend actually has some pretty good football games as opposed to last year. I just mentioned that Georgia-Clemson game. Miami is at Florida at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium to open the season. You've also got Notre Dame heading to Texas A&M. Mike Elko making his debut for the Aggies in the opener. You kind of go down the rest of the games to see what else kind of piques your interest. And it's, again, a pretty solid weekend, opening weekend all the way through. By the way, Coastal Carolina will open at Jacksonville State against Rich Rodriguez, if you were unaware of that. And then you go to the Sunday, September 1st game, LSU and Southern Cal, and then your Labor Day night game, Boston College and Florida State. So those are just a couple things that will be taking place there on opening weekend. I do want to remind you, we mentioned this 2 weeks ago at our 107.5 The Game golf tournament, or a week ago. Our fall golf tournament or summer golf tournament, whatever you want to label it, will be Friday, August the 23rd out at Charwood Golf Club. So you can think ahead to that and go ahead and mark your calendars as we'll get you ready for the start of college football. We'll talk more. We'll talk a lot of football this coming week. Shane Beamer expected to speak tomorrow. He will give us a little bit more of an idea of what we will see in this spring game, how much you just heard both Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer talking about how they tried to make it more game-like. You heard Kalen DeBoer there talking about dealing with TV timeouts and how at least this past Saturday didn't matter quite as much if some mistakes were made in dealing with the TV timeouts and coming out of commercial breaks and so forth and so on. But it will be a big deal in the fall. And again, that'll kind of be up to Shane Beamer how he wants to play this game and how he wants to take advantage of having a chance to see Lenora Sellers and Robbie Ashford and this offensive line they're trying to rebuild and so forth and so on. So, again, that'll be something that we'll hear more about tomorrow. Right now, Patrick DeMarco set to join us in studio on Friday, and we'll talk with him a lot about the spring game as we get you ready for this coming Saturday over at Williams-Brice Stadium. 803-404-6100. Some big news with Cam Scott, four-star basketball player out of Lexington High School. I'll tell you about that. We'll talk a little more about the Masters when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the Men's Clinic in Irmo. Dr. Dan Balknight, he's ready to help you. Their practice maintains the highest medical standards while offering men a comfortable environment which they can speak openly about their health concerns and get comprehensive care they need. And that's the big thing, because as we get older as men, sometimes we push off the issues that we're having. Don't do that. Trust me, I just lost 2 good friends because they didn't deal with some health issues. I'm asking you now as men to go and deal with it. And at the Men's Clinic in Irmo, there's nothing generic about you, so that's why they don't give you generic treatment. It's specialized individually for you. Call today and line up an appointment. 803-875-MENS. If you've been experiencing brain fog, fatigue that you're unaware of, you're losing hair, you're losing weight, gaining weight, and you're not sure why, call the Men's Clinic today and get an appointment. 803-875-MENS. Call Dr. Dan Balknight today. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you. .647 as we get you up and get you going here on a Monday morning. Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, April the 15th. Tax day. Tax day. I hope you have your taxes done and have turned them in and are not having to deal with Uncle Sam. But April the 15th as we get you up and get you going today. Hope you're doing well. Big weekend, obviously, in sports. We've talked a lot about the Masters and Scotty Scheffler being able to win the Masters, and then obviously South Carolina taking 2 of 3 from Florida over the weekend. And we'll talk more with Jamie Bradford coming up here in about 12 minutes and get his take on that baseball series. But there was some other really big local news that occurred over the weekend. News coming out, Jamie Shaw of On3 Sports reporting Saturday, 4-star guard Cam Scott from Lexington High School, my alma mater, state champion and Gatorade State Player of the Year, was released from his national letter of intent to Texas over the weekend. Scott committed back in August of 2023, committed to the Longhorns over Oregon, Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi. That was kind of the teams in the final group. He averaged 22 points and 3.5 steals per game this season. He is the all-time leading scorer. He easily surpassed my record total of 21 points. He easily surpassed me early on in his career. He's the all-time leading scorer at Lexington, 2,475 career points. So what happens next? South Carolina has some openings. Obviously, you're looking to replace one Meechie Johnson. Cam Scott would be a great start. And I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. You have seen now South Carolina be able to showcase Midlands in particular prospects better than I really remember in a long time. You'd probably have to go back to the 80s with the JoJo Englishes, the Barry Mannings, the Joe Retts. The guys from the Midlands, not just the state. Nothing against Sandarius Thornwell, but obviously being from Lancaster, a little bit different. Bruce Ellington being from the Charleston area when he came here. I think you also had R.J. Slauson at that point. But if you talk about just Midlands guys, such as Justin Mackey, who we had on, and P.J. Dozier, who was a big part of that Final Four team. You look at the last 2 years now, and you see what G.G. Jackson was able to do. And by the way G.G. Jackson is wrapping up the season, I guess, did wrap up. I should say it's over now. The NBA ended yesterday. But the way G.G. was able to wrap up, but the way he's still kind of beloved, I think, here in the hometown, the way the Midlands has still kind of embraced him, and now him being able to go to the NBA and showcase his skills in the manner with which he has. You think about what Colin Murray Boyles, who was originally from right down the road at AC Flora, and what he did this year, and kind of the way he's been celebrated by fans around here. All of a sudden, I think it makes it look as good as it ever has for a guy like Cam Scott to say, I can stay home. Now you've seen South Carolina have success this past season, get to the NCAA tournament, led in part by a Midlands guy in Colin Murray Boyles. I don't know what's going to happen. I kind of stayed away because I don't want to harass people, and quite frankly, I'm not into breaking news here on this particular radio show. If we stumble across it early in the morning, that's awesome. But kind of stayed away from the people I know at Lexington, let Cam work this out himself. But you have to think that South Carolina would love to add Cam Scott to their roster and add a player of that ability who's a hometown kid. You know, what is Lamont Paris's plan for Cam Scott? Can you go in in a recruiting visit, much like they did with Gigi, and lay out, hey, and I think again, my personal opinion, a 2-year plan. A 2-year plan for Cam Scott. The one and done is so tough. And you go back to G.G. Jackson this year. He started 18 games. He ended up averaging 25 minutes. G.G. ended up, when the season is said and done, G.G. averaged 15 points a game. And I know you're tired of hearing it, but G.G. should have been a freshman in college this year. But he goes to the NBA and was very, very impressive, especially, again, coming down the stretch. Played in 48 games this year and, again, started 18. I think Cam could use a 2-year plan. Come into South Carolina, get kind of acquainted with the program next year, contribute a good bit. Maybe that's off the bench. Maybe that's as a starter, whatever it may be. But come in, be that guy, and then year 2, be the man. Be the guy in year 2, and then head off to the NBA. Maybe you can even find a way to pair him with Colin Murray Boyles for 2 years. I haven't really bothered some of the people I know in the NBA profession about the professional prospects of Colin Murray Boyles. I know that he will get a chance one day. The question is it next year or is it the year after? But, man, you think about what Lamont Paris could do here that continues to build this program. And I like Meechie Johnson. I think people should be very appreciative of what he did for the university coming here and how he helped them. I think you get a little bit of an upgrade if you get Cam Scott in. He's not going to be experienced like Meechie was, and they're different players. But if Cam Scott can play a little bit of defense and bulk himself up a little bit, I think you get an improved defensive player there in Cam Scott over Meechie Johnson. So it is something we will keep a very close eye on because South Carolina does have scholarship spots available. Maybe you don't want to go the transfer portal route. You're willing to take another freshman. Cam Scott now available, again, getting his release on Saturday from Texas in his national letter of intent. Again, Scott averaging 22 points and 3.5 steals per game last year. He is ranked as the number by On3 Sports. He is ranked as the number 35 overall player and the number 7 shooting guard in the class. He is, of course, the top player in South Carolina. And if I'm giving Colin Murray Boyles the benefit of the doubt, he did finish his career at Utah. It's also a feather in the cap for Lamont Paris that he could say for 3 consecutive years, G.G. Jackson, Colin Murray Boyles, and then Cam Scott, he's landed the top player in the class in the state of South Carolina. Again, I know Murray Boyles went out to Utah, so I'm stretching things a little bit on that. But again, that's something just to think about. We'll continue to monitor that because for South Carolina basketball, what you just saw yesterday, we were there at the parade. Terry Ford was driving the truck. Elijah Campbell was out there. You saw the excitement from, if you've seen the video, you saw the excitement of what Dawn Staley's done. Lamont Paris trying to build the same thing. What better way to do it than with another homegrown product in Cam Scott and getting him to come and stay home and be that third guy again, following in the footsteps of GG, following in the footsteps of CMB, of Colin Murray Boyles. Cam Scott would be that third guy and be a large piece of the puzzle for 2024, 2025 for Lamont Paris. So we'll continue to monitor that and track that here. From what I do understand, you could get a relatively quick decision here within the next 7 to 10 days. So some good news for South Carolina there. Potentially nothing finalized yet, but Cam Scott being released from his national letter of intent. We'll roll into hour number 2. Jamie Bradford set to join us. We'll get into a lot of baseball. Answer that question that Ted asked earlier about Matt Williams' pitching philosophy. You're listening to The Early Game. Let's see. What exactly? We were home all weekend. We smoked some turkey wings. That was new and different. We'll probably try that again here in the near future. We smoked a tenderloin. We smoked chicken. We smoked hot dogs. All of it came from Old Timey Meat Market, because the Gunner family, when we're ready for grilling season as it is now, that is our go-to place. Old Timey Meat Market in Lexington. Now, you might want to visit one of the other locations. There's St. Andrews Road in Irmo or the South Congaree store. But with the absolute best cuts of steak, of beef, of pork, of poultry, of salmon. Maybe we should have done some salmon this weekend. We could have done some oysters this weekend. Oh, I could spend more than just 1 minute talking about the great foods at Old Timey Meat Market. So I tell you what, you need to go visit and find out for yourself. Again, the Lexington store, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the South Congaree store. Absolute best cuts of meat and the absolute best prices. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Blue Ridge Terrace at Monticello Road, working that earlier tie-up. Also, Louis Road near Cedar Grove Road right there at Highway 1. Great forecast on the way. My goodness, 89 potentially for the high today, 88 tomorrow. We stay really in the mid to upper 80s. Most of this week could top off at 90 on Thursday, and that all continues into the weekend. But then by Sunday, maybe some showers, actually maybe Saturday night, some possible thunderstorms, and then it cools down, some showers on Sunday. It will get back into the 70s. So a summer-like week for sure. Right now it's 59.
Hour 2 as we get you up and get you going on Monday, April the 15th. Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne out this morning. He'll be back tomorrow as we will get his thoughts. Starting to really count down to the South Carolina spring game. Now, I think it's been a good spring. It's been quiet. It's the best kind of spring. It's been quiet. It's been a little underrated. We've worked through baseball. We've worked through a NCAA tournament basketball run. The men kept us involved there for opening weekend. Football was kind of able to go under the radar and do, I think, what they needed to do to try and get ready for the 2024 season. And we'll talk more about that as we roll through the week and what you're looking for coming up Saturday evening at Williams-Brice Stadium. But the main discussion right now centering around South Carolina baseball, and joining me, as he does each and every Monday, to talk a good bit about that. We'll also get into some Masters discussion as well. But Jamie Bradford. Jamie, and overall, just a great sports. I don't know how it was in Charleston. Up here, weather was phenomenal. I was able to watch the Masters and the baseball outside the majority of the weekend. I assume it was the same for you and the family down in Charleston.
Absolutely. Yep. Spent the whole weekend on the porch, pretty much.
Welcome to spring. It only lasts a couple days here, especially in the Midlands, but you try to make the absolute most of it when you can. And let's start with that. South Carolina Friday night. They go on the road. They do what they need to do. Take 2 of 3 overall throughout the weekend. And you couple that with the North Carolina victory last week, a pitcher's duel in which you win 2-1. Last week was the kind of week South Carolina baseball needs to get ready to turn the calendar to the back half of April and into the month of May.
Yeah, no question. I mean, and, they salvaged Game 3 against third-ranked Texas A&M. So they were on a 4-game winning streak against ranked opponents, and yesterday couldn't get it done bullpen wise. They for a couple weeks they've had some issues in the bullpen. I think that they need to kind of get sorted out, but there's a lot of runs being scored in the SEC. Not to mention the strike zone is an absolute joke in college baseball. But at the end of the day, here they are. They're 25-11, and they're right pretty much in the thick of it. Arkansas took a pair on the chin this weekend at Alabama. We'll see if they're still ranked number 1 in the country coming to Columbia. I've got a feeling they probably will be. And the Gamecocks have a huge opportunity to have 3 straight sellouts this weekend with the number 1 team in the nation in town. And I mean, generally when number 1 comes to town at Founders Park, it ends well for South Carolina. So this is a big moment for this team.
Let me ask you, one of our callers, Ted, called in earlier, and he was asking about the pitching philosophy of Matt Williams. And in certain situations, he felt, if I understood Ted correctly, he felt that South Carolina tends to be more aggressive in terms of getting into, say, an 0-2 count and not really throwing a throwaway pitch, if you will, trying to get the other team swinging, but instead being aggressive and going for the strikeout right then and there. Have you talked with Matt enough to understand maybe his philosophy on how he wants to attack hitters? If he's at times can be a little more passive and trying to get guys to swing, or be aggressive and maybe trying to throw it across the plate and get the strikeout to get the ball in play?
Yeah, overall, they're pretty aggressive as a staff. Yeah, I haven't talked to Matt in a while, but I kind of understand how. I mean, I do understand how he approaches things. He doesn't want guys to give away pitches by any stretch of the imagination. Now, there are scenarios where that's certainly going to be different. This weekend, they for the most part went after Jack Caglione, and Caglione got the best of them. Even a couple times where he was retired, he hit it really hard, but they played the shift and it worked out for the Gamecocks. So, yeah, he's not big on waste pitches and stuff like that. And sometimes when you do that, it kind of throws the guy on the mound off. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it either, to be honest with you. I feel like every pitch should have a purpose. So, yeah, I mean, he's good. More times than not, they're going to be in attack mode as long as he's a pitching coach.
803-404-6100 if you want to follow up on anything that Jamie said about that. Going back to the pitching in particular this weekend, should I have been surprised? I guess we knew it was coming, but the decision to start Ty Good on Saturday against the Gators, and obviously that pays off. But you go back and you look at his performance. To me, he's interesting because of how many different roles you could utilize him in and what he was able to do. He threw 4 innings on Saturday, gave up 4 hits, 3 earned runs. He struck out 4. That's a guy that I'm interested to see more of as they come down the stretch, and I kind of wanted your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so, when going on the road this weekend, I know Becker didn't have the start yesterday that he was hoping to. He wasn't getting any strikes low in the zone, and that hurts him. He's got to be able to get a low strike. But, umpiring and strike calling is probably a conversation we can have another day. It's a train wreck in college baseball. They got to fix it. But no, Ty Good. So he's been around a while. I mean, these guys were older, and you were putting experience on the mound this weekend in a series that you felt like you really needed, like you had to have a road series win somewhere, and you wanted to continue the momentum with 2 straight top 5 opponents coming to town the next couple of weekends in Arkansas and Kentucky. So, they went with those guys. Both of them are multi-use guys. Ty is a really smart pitcher. I mean, he's got a good brain on the mound. He's been through the wars. He was Coach Holbrook's CAA Pitcher of the Year at the College of Charleston. I know that doesn't necessarily resonate to the SEC, but when you're the Pitcher of the Year in a league, you're the pitcher. I mean, Dominic Nimmin was the Pitcher of the Year in the Northeast Conference or whatever it was at Central Connecticut State. Everybody remember that name? They came to town last year in the regional. Well, Dominic Nimmin is up at Kentucky right now dealing in the starting rotation on the weekend. So it can translate, especially if you're an older guy like Ty Good is. So I'm a big fan of Ty. You flip that around. Remember, Tyler Pitcher had to come in and save the game on Saturday, and he was a guy who had a brilliant start against Vanderbilt. So they have dudes that can do a lot of stuff. I mean, you'd like to see it kind of narrowed down where these dudes know their roles. And obviously they're trying to do that. They don't want to continue to play games with the rotation. Like, that's not in anybody's deck of cards. But they're trying to figure out what the best thing is going to be for them in the postseason as well. I mean, the Gamecocks are going to go to the postseason. So they're trying to figure out what is going to be the best scenario for them. I thought Ty did well. I thought had he been at home and not in Gainesville, he probably would have had another inning in him at least. But it was a quality start on Saturday for Ty Good. He's a great kid, by the way. He loves putting on that uniform. He loves it. He loves South Carolina. So really pulling for that kid.
You bring up, and that's one of the reasons I asked you about Ty Good, but you talked about right now, it is interesting, Tyler Pitzer coming in and getting the start. I think they're still trying to figure out how exactly to utilize Roman Kimball. Kimball actually got the win on Saturday, throwing 3 innings and giving up 5 hits. And how do I word this, Jamie, to not put the young man down, but also say that there can be more? Kimball is a guy that I think there's a lot of potential there. It's struggling to be completely harnessed right now, that he's a guy that could really change that rotation. I don't know how you feel about him in particular.
Oh, yeah. So I love Roman. First of all, Roman's a good dude, but he's got great stuff. And go back the last couple of outings, look at his strike percentage. It's gone up. That's the key to him. The more strikes he throws, the better he's going to be. He's just got to throw strikes, and he's got to be consistent in throwing strikes and be able to throw strikes when he needs to. So, that Gators offense has been struggling this year, and I can't figure out why. Matter of fact, nobody can figure out why. I was talking to Coach Lake about this the other day. Like, why are they not swinging it better on offensively? Nobody seems to know the answer, but maybe they kind of popped out a little bit this weekend. He had a pretty good performance, honestly. He just had a couple of pitches here and there that he'd probably like to get back. But Roman, they have to have Roman. Like, if they want to win in the postseason, guys like Roman Kimball have to pitch. That's what he's brought here for. And so I'm a big fan of him. He's got the stuff. He just has to keep throwing strikes, and the more strikes he throws, the better he's going to be.
803-404-6100. Jamie Bradford joining us as he does. We'll get into the offense a little bit. Dalton Reeves, what do we do with him? As he has gotten red hot. We'll talk with Jamie a little bit about that and get your take on that. Also talk some Masters from the weekend. Scotty Scheffler, second major now of his career, 2 Green Jackets. We'll get into that a little bit with Jamie Bradford this morning as we roll along. Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, you're listening to the early game. A lot going on with the game. Let me tell you about a couple things that you need to check out. Number one, the craft beer card is back. You can spend $30 at a brewery at 12 different locations. It's a $360 value for only $79. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on the Sweet Deals tab to check out and purchase your craft beer card. Again, it's 12 different craft beer locations, and each one has a value of $30. So 12 location, $30 value, $360. But guess what? You can only spend $79. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals to check out the craft beer card. And a reminder, this week we got South Carolina baseball, 6:45 tomorrow night. Pregame, 7 o'clock, first pitch. Wednesday night, Carolina calls with Coach Kingston, 6 p.m. And Thursday night, Shane Beamer's Carolina calls will take place, getting you ready for the spring game. All of this taking place right here on 1075 The Game.
And taking a peek at those traffic conditions out there this morning. Blue Ridge Terrace at Monticello Road, still working on getting that cleaned up. Also, Louis Road near Cedar Grove Road. We're going to be in the 80s, believe it or not, all week long. Could hit 90 on Thursday. Might see some possible storms on Saturday and some rain maybe continuing into the weekend, but not really going to focus on that right now because, again, we're looking at some kind of pre-summer-like conditions this week. Starting off your morning at 58 on the early game.
Eight zero 404-6100. That's how you can be a part of the program if you hear something you want to weigh in on this morning. Jamie Bradford joining us, as he does each and every Monday morning, to talk a little baseball. We'll talk a little Masters as well. You can get his thoughts on the spring game coming up Saturday and what he's kind of looking forward to. But we've been talking a lot about right now. South Carolina takes 3 of 4 last week, and Jamie made a great point. Factor that in with knocking off Texas A&M on the Sunday game at Founders Park. Gamecocks had gotten themselves on a little bit of a roll, winning 4 of 5 against ranked opponents. So a pretty nice start for the middle part of April. Now you got to keep it going, Jamie. And one of the guys that we're probably underscoring if we say a pretty nice start, Dalton Reeves is starting to step up big time for the Gamecocks. 4 of 8 this past weekend. Pair of home runs. Just impressive. He's hitting .360 with 4 home runs and 12 RBIs on the season, but a lot of that coming recently.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say about this kid, man? I mean, he has stepped right in since the Presbyterian game when he hit those 2 balls out of the yard, and he's been just brilliant. He's been brilliant, and he's only struck out 4 times all year. Now he's only got 17, I guess, official at bats, I think is what it is. No, it's more than that. I can't remember what it is now, but probably somewhere around 30 now after the weekend. But he's having quality at bats, Bill, and that was one of the things that was affecting this team was quality at bats. Like you've got to be, when you've got 2 strikes, you like your mentality has to be, don't get beat. I'm not getting beat here. Like, I'm going to fight you to the death, and we're going to put some pressure on the defense somewhere. And somebody's got to make a play to get me out. Like, I'm not just going to go down looking at strike 3. And, he's got some walks. He bunts well. He gets the bat head out. He puts the ball down. He moves runners. He's got a sac fly or 2 to his name already, understanding the situation. Those are quality at bats, and they were really lacking a lot of that. And he's brought a spark. I think you asked the question before break, like, what do they do with Dalton Reeves? They write him in the lineup. That's what they do. I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about. The kid needs to play, and Mark Kingston has eyes in his head, and he will continue to play. And you'll probably see him in the lineup tomorrow night against the Citadel down here in Charleston. He's been a big-time boost to this offense, and he's got a lot of energy, and he's a kid that played D2 baseball and then played at Presbyterian, lower D1, and now playing at the highest level. He's earned his way there, and he's very appreciative for it.
I wonder, you're always looking for that spark. Baseball is such a different game, and Reeves, his performance of late and what he's done, you factor him in there. You know what you're getting with LeCroy. Obviously, you know what you're getting with Kennedy Jones. I think has been very good this year. Petrie has been phenomenal. Messina, you keep him healthy. Things are. It just seems like that lineup. You hope that it's finding its way. I know they only scored 2 runs the other night, but that was a really good North Carolina pitching staff. I put that more on North Carolina being pretty doggone good at throwing the baseball as opposed to South Carolina hitting it. But I think this is a fun matchup this coming weekend, and I know we probably shouldn't skip past Citadel tomorrow night, but this is a fun matchup for this lineup against this Arkansas pitching staff.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, they went to Florida this weekend and scored 28 runs. I mean, it's not bad. And here's the thing: like they still had issues. Like yesterday, you know, well, not even just yesterday. I mean, throughout the weekend, but yesterday, you know, one of the reasons that they lost was they just didn't swing it well enough with runners on base again, runners in scoring position. I think until I know Nolan got a big knock and I guess Reeves once again, you know, they had a couple late in the game, but, you know, they gave up 11 runs as a staff too. When you score 9, you feel like you should win the game. But anyways, so like they still need to be better with runners on base and runners in scoring position. Had they had 1 or 2 more hits this weekend, they would have scored well over 30 runs on the road in the SEC. I mean, dude, that's good. You know, I mean, we can sit here and complain and moan all we want, but you're still tacking 10 runs a game on when you're on the road. That's pretty good offense. And if you get 1 or 2 more knocks and you're hitting like 250 as a team with runners in scoring position, you're scoring 30 plus. I mean, that's phenomenal. So they still have room to grow. There's no doubt about it. Hat tip to Will Tippett this weekend. I mean, he had a bunch of strikeouts, but he also had some good at bats, and you can tell that he kind of changed his approach a little bit. He's only hitting right-handed. Trying to be tougher and hit the ball to right field with 2 strikes on him, and he had some big knocks for this team. So, and hat tip to Cole Messina. I mean, Cole Messina went to Coach Kingston and was like, "Look, dude, I'm the Energizer Bunny. Put me in the leadoff spot." And I'm telling you, when they wrote him in the leadoff spot on Friday, Bill, I was like, "What are we doing here? Why is Cole Messina in the leadoff spot?" Well, I mean, he goes out and walks like 7 times this weekend. I think he had like 6 or 7 hits. So, I mean, that's what you need out of a leadoff hitter. I'm pretty sure he had a stolen base, too. He had a bunch of quality at bats. I don't know. Maybe Cole Messina is going to end up being the leadoff guy, but I feel like they're closer offensively. I feel like they're closer after seeing these 3 games. Again, you got the best pitching staff in the country coming in this weekend, so they're going to have issues against Arkansas guys. Like they're not going to go in there and blow 30. If they go in there and score 30 runs this weekend, then they'll be the hottest in college baseball. Arkansas is the best staff in the country, so they're going to have some quality at bats to get a series victory over the Razorbacks.
To your point, Messina, by the way, 13-game hitting streak right now after the weekend. Messina was 6 for 13 with 4 runs scored, 3 RBIs, and then Parker Nolan, who has just quietly been steady Eddie. Parker Nolan, for those that don't know, has reached base safely in the last 23 games. This past weekend, 4 hits, 3 of which were for extra base hits. Parker Nolan has been a linchpin in that lineup as well. So let me ask you this, because I'm kind of fascinated. You pay more attention, I think, to big picture baseball than I do. And coming off of the NCAA basketball tournament, where we all thought the SEC would be very strong in it. We thought maybe Auburn would make a run, and Florida was pretty good. And, okay, Kentucky should have been good. How do you view, because, by the way, for those that don't know, 8-7 is South Carolina's SEC record. We're at the halfway point, the official halfway point of the SEC play for conference teams. You look at what you've seen through 15 conference games and through the rest of the season. How strong is the SEC when it comes to postseason play? What can you kind of project, or what do you think about the game, about SEC baseball teams right now in the NCAA tournament?
Okay, yeah. So today they would get 10 teams in today, and I mean maybe 9, but I'm pretty darn confident they get 10 teams in today. And they would probably, of those 10, Bill, they would have 5 hosts for sure, if not 6. Probably 6. If you ask me today, like, who would those be? Arkansas and A&M out of the West, Kentucky, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, South Carolina out of the East. All of them would be top 16 seeds. Because not only is there record support, so you got to remember, it's the number one RPI conference in college baseball. RPI in college baseball is a big deal. Go to warrennolan.com and you can see the numbers for yourself. And South Carolina at 25-11, 8-7 in the league, number 15 in the RPI. And with the amount of wins that they have versus quality opponents, it's like the third most in the country or something like that, third or fourth most in the country. So I think Carolina's got 9 quad one victories. That's the second most in the SEC behind Kentucky, who has 12. To put it in perspective, Arkansas has 4 quad one wins on the year. Gamecocks had 9. So they would be a host today. They'd be a top 16 national seed. And then the other teams that would get in, Georgia would get in, Florida would get in. Don't look at that 18-17 record. Florida would get in. Mississippi State and Alabama, they would get in.
It's a tough. I mean, we know it. South Carolina's got to continue to rise up, and part of it is just get to postseason play. Just get to postseason play, and then do your work there. And
well, Bill, I know you got to get a break, but after you got Citadel this week, so don't lose on the road,
right?
In the non-con, and then the next 2 you've got Arkansas, and then Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So Kentucky is 4th in the country in RPI. Arkansas is 6th in the country in RPI. If you take both of those series at home, and you're sitting at 12, or you'd be at
yeah, you're right, 12-9.
12-9, right?
You could go 2-1 in both series. You'd be at 12-9.
Yeah, you'd be at 12-9. You are at that point in time knocking on the door of a top 8 national seed. And guess what? I've been saying this for weeks on my show. Like, I get it; they've had issues to work through. But fans falling apart and calling for coaches' heads and stuff, like, dude, let the season play out. Like, they have so much to play for, it's insane. So there is a ton that can still happen for this team. And even if they don't win the next 2 series, like, they're in the postseason, and they can still host a regional. But these next 2 are, I mean, you can't. Those are the division leaders in the league. Kentucky and Arkansas, top 10 in the RPI. Coming into your ballpark. I mean, you should have 48,000 people over the next 2 weekends that are in there to watch these games. So I hope there is, because this team absolutely can make huge statements like they did this weekend down in Gainesville.
Well, obviously Saturday is the I forget the big Gamecock weekend or whatever. I forget the official title of it. Preston Thorne weaseled his way out of having to run in the Cocky Trot 5K. Unbelievable effort by Preston to get out of.
Okay, can we just back up? How many things have you weaseled out of and not fulfilled on a bet? We're still waiting for a hockey thing, right?
I can't go break into the facility and get. I have no hockey gear.
So
you know that, right? Like I said, I would do it. I have to be supplied with the gear and have to be. I think there's a difference here.
No, I agree. But then, okay, I can't do that, so I will serve another punishment.
I offered that up, and then you and Patrick. There's a Patrick thing, got stuck on hockey. And I was like, all right, what else? What else?
I'm willing to let you suffer with something else. I'm good with that.
See the path we've gone down here a little bit. All right, yeah. Baseball Saturday, 3 o'clock at Founders Park, and then you can head over and get some tailgating in and go to the spring game. We'll talk more about that spring game and what Jamie's looking forward to this coming weekend. It should be a lot of fun. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jamie Bradford joining as always on Monday. Jen Jensen, it's the early game. Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. It's that time of year where you start looking around and thinking about maybe purchasing a home, or you're getting tax refunds. Maybe you want to think about maybe refinancing, saving a little bit of money. Maybe you're thinking about building a home. Well, guess what? First Palmetto Bank has a no-nonsense construction loan that will fit your needs. To learn more about it and some other offers, call the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank today, 803-719-1010. 8005. I can personally speak for Jacob and the job he does. Just a few years ago, he helped find a great interest rate, make sure all the paperwork was done properly, and put me in a condo out on Lake Murray, and it's been fantastic. He'll do the same for you. The key here is being diligent, being honest, and working hard, and that's exactly what Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru, does. Find out for yourself. Call him today, 803-719-1005. He's with First Palmetto Bank.
And things pretty decent for your Monday morning. We do have two accidents we do need to let you know about. 2 Notch Road near Emmanuel Church Road. Also, Louis Road near Cedar Grove. And I spoke too soon. We just picked up another one. Highway 1 at Fontaine. So a little extra caution out there, please, this morning. But looking for kind of summer-like conditions for the next few days. Really going to be in the mid to upper 80s through Saturday. The rain chance is really not coming in until sometime on Saturday. Might even hit 91 on Thursday. So it's looking pretty nice for this week. Good week to get out and about. It's 58 right now, though, on the early game.
7:34 as we roll along on your Monday morning commute. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, getting up and moving on, as you just heard Jen give some weather. Another beautiful day here in the Midlands as we get, we wrap up spring essentially, because what did you say, Jen? Thursday, 91? Is that what I got?
Yeah, it's supposed to be mid to upper 80s through Saturday.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed your spring.
Well, we'll be back to that maybe by, I think, Saturday or Sunday. Then we'll be back in the 70s. But, yeah, we're just getting a taste.
Yeah, it's a welcome to Columbia, South Carolina weather, where the spring lasts all of 5 days, and then we go into the summer heat and humidity. 803-404-6100. Before you know it, we will be dealing with that heat and humidity. It'll be August. We'll be ready for the start of preseason, not fall, preseason football camp. But to do that, we got to wrap up spring, Jamie Bradford, and that comes to a conclusion this coming Saturday, April the 20th, over at Williams-Brice Stadium. And I labeled it, I think you heard me as we were starting the segment, or starting the hour, it's been a quiet spring practice, I think, for South Carolina and Shane Beamer, and that's exactly what they need. They don't need to be in the spotlight. We don't need to be debating or hyping Lenore Sellers. Let them get behind the wall and work, and then we'll see what they look like August 31st against Old Dominion. So I think it's been a good spring so far.
Yep, I'm with you. And honestly, I feel like they are where they want to be. Now, does that translate to wins? We'll find out. I think sometimes people hear things like that and they think, they looked really good, and then you get into the fall and you lose a game, and then people like me and you, everybody can't wait to run to the message boards and Twitter and tell everybody how stupid we are because we said they look good and yada yada yada, right? We've been down this road before, but I think from what I understand, the things that they felt like they needed to address and they needed to work on. And as a coaching staff, they needed to be able to get a read on so they can spend the summer figuring out what they want to do with their football team in August. I feel, from what I've heard, they've gotten the information that they needed to get. Like on the offensive line, I think when we watch the game Saturday night, people are probably going to be less than impressed with the offensive line. That doesn't mean that they don't have good players, but they've got a bunch of dudes. They've got transfers, they have true freshmen, and they have returners, right, Bill? And they cross-train a lot of these guys. And they're moving them all over the place, and they're mixing and matching and trying to figure out who can do what five are the best here, what five are the best there. This guy might be better here, but this guy's better here, and if he's better here, he can't play, so we need to put this guy in. They're trying to get all those things figured out now, as opposed to trying to get those things figured out a week or two before they kick off on August the 31st. So, that's encouraging stuff to me from an evaluation standpoint with this program, and that's really what spring practice is for. I don't think that the expectation is to look like a top 10 football team in April. The expectation is to evaluate what you've got, especially in the transfer world. Nobody knows what they have. So you really have to be in evaluation mode in April, and I feel like these guys have been.
Yeah, I've pushed back on this a little bit, though. Last week, Jonathan Austin from Stratford and former Gamecock offensive lineman, former Washington Redskin, was in with us, and we were talking about this. And at some point, though, you do have some young players. Obviously, Josiah Thompson, Marquis Anderson still, after the injury last year, is young. But, man, Tree Babalade, Trevon Ball, they played. Kason Henry, I know he's been injured, but he's been around. Vershawn Lee's back for his 12th year of college. Ja'Kai Moore somehow got a miracle 20th year of college. You've got some transfers that are experienced. I think you've got to lock in and go. That offensive line is going to be the key this year. You've got some running backs. I think you have a capable quarterback. I've hyped him more than anybody else, and now I'm trying to slow that down a little bit. But I think you've got to lock in this line. You can't keep using youth and inexperience as an excuse. I don't know, Jamie. I'm interested on Saturday night, though, because if they look bad, I think the narrative becomes, okay, well, the defensive line must be pretty good. This offensive line's got to step up this year.
Oh, I don't think there's any question to understand what I'm saying. I'm not excusing anybody, and I certainly don't think that the guys who've played a ton of football should be out there looking like crap. That's not what I'm getting at. I just mean collectively as a unit. I know that they're excited about some of the guys they've brought in as transfers, and I know that they're excited about the freshmen that they've got. So they're trying to figure out. I mean, I don't think, Bill, unless somebody's heard differently from myself, I don't think you're going to be expecting these young, very talented freshmen to jump in there and be saviors. I mean, I'm with you. I think Big Tree and Trevon and Vershawn, those guys, like, they're good football players. They need to play. But I think as a unit, they also need to figure out exactly who can do what best. I mean, is Kamar Bell an answer from FAU? Like, we don't know that. So they have to figure that out. I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question. I'm not the offensive line coach. But so they have to evaluate all this stuff, and they have to try all these different scenarios. On the flip side of that, though, the defensive line is pretty good, and they are deep. Now, what does that translate to wins? I have no earthly idea. But I do know this. They hadn't been this deep since Coach Beamer's been here. And I know they're excited about them, so I would anticipate those guys having a much better night on Saturday in the offensive line. But I 100% agree with you on that. Like, they can't win enough football games this year to satisfy themselves, let alone anybody else, without those guys up front playing well.
What is fair to expect from Lenore Sellers on Saturday night, in your opinion?
I mean, how much is he going to play? I mean, he's going to have to play. Like, he's not Spencer Rattler, right? So, but he is your quarterback, so you are going to protect him to a degree. He's got limited playing experience in his career, so you want to see him get out there and perform, but also you want to be very, very careful with him. I think how he'll be evaluated are on things that not only will we as fans be able to see from the stands, but also a lot of the stuff that we don't see because we don't know the play calls, although it's going to be very vanilla. Right, it's going to be. I mean, he's not going to show their offense on Saturday, so he'll be evaluated on decision making and things like that by Coach Loggins and the rest of that staff. We have no information on that. Like we're not privy to any of that stuff. So they'll go back in and they'll evaluate every decision that he made based on what the play call was, what the protection was, yada 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 yada, all the stuff that 99% of fans don't understand and don't see and don't know anything about. We'll just look at the stat box and go, oh, he went 8 of 11 for 131 yards. Man, he's going to be spectacular. Right? That's what we'll get. But to put it in baseball terms, if you go watch fall practice and a guy runs out there and goes 4 for 4 and hits 2 balls out of the yard because the center fielder came in and had to pitch and was throwing 75-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the middle, does that 4 for 4 translate? Not really. So you have to evaluate all that stuff. So I that's not really an answer. I know I kind of beat around the bush there. I think what we want to see from him is confident decision making. Like if he feels confident in throwing the football, taking off and running, or what if they allow him to do that, that's what I want to see. Or is he back there? Is he confused and doesn't know what to do? Like I think that would be the worst case scenario. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not. But if you got a quarterback that doesn't know what he's doing, that's a problem. If you got a quarterback that knows what he's doing but makes a poor decision, you can coach guys through that.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up with Jamie, but at least for a few seconds, everybody wants to make sure you're okay. The fire alarm or whatever in the background. How long?
So, yeah, this happened. No, I know. This happened yesterday, and I went and changed it. I didn't have a 9-volt. So I went to the store and got some 9 volts, and I swapped it out this morning, and it's still beating. And I did that during the break, and I was whatting everything. And then I looked. I'm like, dude, what is going on here? And then I looked on the back. 3 small chirps means that there's a malfunction. You must replace the entire unit. So now during this break, I'm going to get back up on the ladder and take the whole thing out.
Yeah. Oh, that's not good. No, okay. All right.
Nothing like Mondays, man.
That is
Monday.
Welcome to a Monday. Welcome to a Monday. But all right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up here with Jamie Bradford as we roll along, get his master's thoughts. You're listening to the early game. It is tax day. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Are you prepared? Were you prepared? Do you feel like everything's in line? Or are you going to be getting one of those dreaded notices of intent to levy or get a lien from the IRS letter? You don't want those. And if you've already gotten one, you've already received one, you need to contact the Ecton Law Firm today. They have a local team that is experienced and ready to help you. So it doesn't matter if you're in Myrtle Beach, if you're in Florence, if you're here in Columbia, John Ecton and his team are ready to help you. It just starts with a phone call and getting a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. If you've received a notice from the IRS, you and your business may be in trouble, but the Ecton Law Firm is ready to help. They can make sure everything goes smooth. Give them a phone call today and talk about them. Talk about this with them. Get a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Call the Ecton Law Firm. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Wrapping it up here, we'll get some Masters thoughts from Jamie Bradford here in just a second. First, let me remind you about Mid-State Roofing. Oh, it's beautiful today, but you know as well as I do, we're going to get those summer thunderstorms around the corner, and Mid-State Roofing has been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for nearly 30 years. Larry Leitner and his team have been making sure that the world is roofed. All right, well, it's actually that Planet Hollywood down in Myrtle Beach, but they've been making sure that the planet has been roofed, and they'll do the same for your house. You get the point. Call them today and line up. It's a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. They'll help get you a maintenance contract that can protect that roof and keep your operation dry and running long into the future. And they can do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's right. They get a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week call center. Give them a phone call today. 803-356-1919, or visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 803-404-6100, how you can join us. We've covered a lot, Jamie. We've covered spring games and baseball. The one thing I haven't asked you about, Scotty Scheffler, you mentioned it. You were on the back porch all weekend taking in a bunch of great sports. And I asked the question, and a lot of people came back and said they really enjoyed the Masters this weekend. Enjoyed how difficult the course kind of played. I thought it was good, Masters. I wasn't. It's not one that I'll go down remembering how I watched it and where I watched it. Neat to see Scheffler win, but I don't know. Still, I feel like something was missing, and I don't know if that's me.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of stuff missing. Let's see. Justin Thomas didn't make the weekend. I mean, Jordan Spieth didn't make the weekend. Dustin Johnson didn't make the weekend. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff missing. Tiger did, and hats off to him for being able to get through it. He's given us so much, and it was, seeing him get through it. Hat tip to Vern Lundquist.
Yeah.
I can't believe that 40 years has gone by. He's just phenomenal. Scheffler's the best player in the world, and I think somewhere in the tournament Saturday, I was like, Scotty Scheffler's going to win this thing. he's just unflappable. He's just unflappable, man. So there's only 8 guys under par. And obviously the conditions contributed to that with all the wind this weekend and how quickly everything drives. I mean, it was like putting on concrete on Saturday, so that was tough. But good Masters, and for him to go 11 under like that just goes to show you just how difficult things would play. I mean, there's really only 2 players that throughout the weekend just played consistent golf, and it was him and Oberg, the guy who finished second. He shot a 73, and then after that, 69, 70, 69. I mean, Fleetwood was pretty consistent throughout the weekend too, but everybody else up and down, and so that's what it was.
I will admit, I called Oberg winning it. I think it was about a stroke back. I think it was after I can't remember if it was when he was tied or if he was a stroke back. His demeanor, I was thoroughly impressed with. He gets the protein bar knocked out of his hand. He just kind of smiles, laughs about it, makes a little joke, and goes on. Then you see him over there eating, I think, what was it, maybe a peanut butter sandwich the next time. I like him, and in the way too fast, way too hot take genre of sports talk radio, I'd be willing to put money on him to win it next year. He's the guy that I could see winning it next year. Young guy, you mentioned it, played exceptionally well. I do think there's some good golfers up and coming. Jamie, you're a golf fan. You're like me. You play the sport. You enjoy the sport. I was intrigued by what Jon Rahm said early in the week, not only about LIV going to 72 holes, which I don't know if he knows what LIV stands for, but also the fact that this sport is as fractured as I've ever seen it. And when even someone like me is just, it's hard to get back into it. I understand the casual golfer. How do you feel about golf right now? Just like this week, we got a great event here in our state, the Heritage. Phenomenal event. And it's just, I don't have that same excitement.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to kind of see it all come back together, you know? Fractured is a really good word for it, I think. You know, who is the hero in golf right now? Do we have one?
No, because there is no. I mean, Scheffler, I guess, but he's vanilla.
Very vanilla. Yeah,
you know,
love him though. Great guy.
Yeah. I mean, but there isn't one. Everybody, it's just the sport. The sport doesn't have personality right now. It's in a very odd place, and I can say that as a person again who's watched a lot of it. And I think you're in the same boat with me on it. That's why I ask. I mean, the sport is just in an odd place where I think it's losing people left and right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of great players, but I mean, you just feel like this whole LIV thing kind of. And we don't have enough time. I know we're out of time, but I mean, you had guys who left and went to LIV. You had guys that stood on the mountain that I'll never do that, and then they kind of opened up to it, and then they did, and then you had guys who haven't gone to LIV, but they're like open to joining forces and yada, you know, and so there was this whole divide, and half the country took one side and half the country took the other side, and half the players took one side and half the players took the other side. And now the players, because there's money involved naturally and all these other things, don't really know what the future is going to look like, but they're open to everything because they want to make sure they're included in everything. And I feel like, you know, when fans lose trust, they lose interest. And I feel like, I mean, that's what happened to baseball in 1994, right? So, I mean, you know, I feel like that's probably contributed to a lot of this, and that's one of the reasons why anytime Tiger plays golf, you're going to see a lot of Tiger, because everybody freaking loves Tiger and what he stands for, and no matter how he plays, you still pull for him, and he'll always be a story. These other guys, they'll be a story till they're not, and then the next guy will be a story.
Yeah, it's, again, just an odd place. We'll continue to cover it, though. I enjoy it and look forward to the PGA. Look forward to the Heritage. Look forward to the PGA Championship. Jamie, as always, man, appreciate it.
Yeah, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you up there this weekend.
Look forward to it. Big baseball series, spring game. Yep, and we'll discuss it all next week. Jamie Bradford, as always, on a Monday. Hour 3 on the way. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. The spring cleaning is in full force right now. You're trying to get the baseboards. You're having to mop the floors, vacuum the carpet, do all that. Don't do it. Don't. Just save time, save energy. Call the pros at Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Traditional carpet cleaners like you use, well, they use soaps and harsh chemicals. They leave behind a sticky, soapy residue. It can even attract more dirt over time. But when you call the experts at Zerorez, you'll enjoy surfaces that stay cleaner longer without dirt-attracting residue. Right now, you can find out for yourself by getting a great deal. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $129. Give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, or book online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Again, get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $129 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Highway 1 at Fontaine Road, still working that earlier tie-up, as well as Louis Road at Cedar Grove Road. Also in the cleanup stages, Two Notch Road at or near Emmanuel Church. It is going to be nice, a little summer-like this week. 89 for the high today, 88 tomorrow. Could be hitting 91 by the time we hit Thursday. We stay in the mid to upper 80s really through about Saturday when there is a chance for some possible storms. Then we get back into the 70s starting on Sunday, and we'll maybe see rain Sunday and Monday. But enjoy the warm week ahead. It is 60 right now on the early game.
Cry here in Butler Cabin.
His stardom confirmed.
challenge. No, it's a very, very special time for both of us. I can't put into words what it means to win this tournament again. I really can't put it into words what it's going to be like to be a father for the first time. So looking forward to getting home and celebrating with Meredith. And it's been a long week here without her, but I'm just looking forward to getting home. Congrats.
That was yesterday afternoon. Scottie Scheffler both winning the Masters. Interesting comment by Vern Lundquist there on his stardom confirmed. I guess I always thought of Scottie Scheffler as a star. Maybe I gave him too much credit prior to winning a second. Remember, he's only won. That's only his second major. Now he turned professional in 2018. He's now won the Masters twice. Last year, he finished tied for second in the PGA Championship. 2 years ago, in 2022, he finished tied for second in the U.S. Open, and his best finish in the Open Championship, the British Open, was tied for 8th in 2021. So maybe I was thinking maybe I've given him too much credit, or maybe because of the defections to Live, where you lose Koepka and Rahm and DJ and even DeChambeau. Maybe he's the face of the PGA Tour, even though, quite honestly, if you look at it, he maybe hasn't earned it. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that until Vern's call yesterday. Vern Lundquist there on the call, wrapping it up. Was yesterday the confirmation that Scheffler is elite? 803-404-6100. That's one question. Well, the other one, though, might be a little bit more fun. I don't know. I don't have an answer for what if he's winning, he was leading the Masters on Saturday night, or he was right there. If he gets the phone call, Jen, on Saturday night that his wife will go into labor on Sunday, that they will have the baby, first child. Scottie Scheffler's 27 years old. He'll be 28 on June 21st. If he gets the call Saturday night, up a stroke in the Masters, and says Meredith, his wife, is going into labor either tonight or tomorrow, what does he do? What would you expect your husband, I guess significant other, but what would you expect him to do?
Tell her to put her feet up. No, I don't know. That's tough. Obviously, you only, and I saw some polls on this where people said you absolutely have to go to her side, and I get that. But with your career, also, this is such a ginormous tournament. That's a tough one, and I respect him because didn't he say, he'd leave the course and head out?
He did. That is probably the right thing to do, but I understand. I feel like that's the thing you say when you say when it's the right thing to say. It's the thing you say when you don't have to actually face the reality of the situation. Like it feels like all golfers have said something similar, because this isn't the first time I think we've seen something like this. I remember, maybe people can help remind me. I won a 98, 99 U.S. Open, maybe 97 U.S. Open. It was at Pinehurst, and it was Payne Stewart and Phil Mickelson. And I believe it might even been 96, 97. I know I was in high school. But Phil Mickelson was going to be a father for the first time. And he stuck around, and I think, again, I'm dating myself here. I mean, you're talking almost 30 years ago. But I think it was Mickelson had to stick around for a Monday playoff. I'd have to go back and look at the exact details. And it was Mickelson, it was Payne Stewart. And, of course, Payne Stewart hit the incredible putt on 18 and jumped up in the air and went over and hugged Mickelson, or kind of put his hands on his face and told him, "You're going to be a father. That's an even greater accomplishment." And I think Mickelson might have said something correctly. And by the way, yeah, I apologize. I said Vern Lundquist. It was Jim Nantz on the call yesterday. I don't know why I said Vern Lundquist.
Well, because of his retirement. He's probably top of mind.
I've been stuck on Vern because I know I'm in the minority on this. I was a huge Vern Lundquist on CBS fan. I get it. I'm probably well in the minority on that. But, yeah, Vern Lundquist, to me, Vern Lundquist and Keith Jackson in terms of national announcers are my two favorite of all time. So I apologize. I said Vern, and I meant Jim Nantz. But going back to this, 803-404-6100. What would you have done? Would have you left Saturday night? You've got a 1-stroke lead. They're telling you, no, she's going to go into labor. I remember. Another thing is he's talking about like the thought of being a first-time father. I remember the night before we knew that my ex-wife was going to go into the hospital, and laying there and thinking about, I'm going to be a father. Like, life's going to change. I was laying in bed not thinking about also, I wonder how I'm going to play number 4 tomorrow to try and make par, or how I'm going to get around the trees on number 9, or how I'm not going to navigate Amen Court. I was thinking about being a father, totally different scenario,
So
and I can't imagine laying in bed thinking about that.
And like I said, from the perspective of a supportive spouse, I feel like I would probably say I would love for you to be here. This is a thing for us, but gosh darn, you're like, this could be life-changing for us as a couple if you win the Masters.
Well, it's his second.
True.
It's his second. I don't.
Yeah, and that's a good point too.
I don't know. That's the really interesting thing. What? Because a texter waited and said, "So what do you do in the situation where his wife could have called in, saying she's going into labor, leading into the final round? Do you stay or do you go?" I think you stay. This isn't a normal tournament. It's not. No offense to the Heritage, love the Heritage, but it's not the Heritage. It's not even the Memorial. This is a significant tournament, and I think you stay. And then you win the Masters, and then maybe you even go for a second kid. Mike weighs in and says you stay, you win the green jacket, then swaddle the new baby with it when you get up. Yeah, great story there. That's a good point. 803-404-6100. We have someone who's going to weigh in on this. We have an expert.
Yes, we do.
I feel like we have an expert. We go out to the Love Chevy phone lines to Brian Glenn, owner, pizza guru, village idiot. I feel like there's nobody better equipped for no reason whatsoever than you to be able to answer this question.
I like being called the guru. That's pretty good, man. Thanks for starting the week off right for me.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad I can early. I'm glad.
Yeah. So here's what I say. It's situational too, right? He's already won a Masters. I think you bail. You bail because that's right there. So you bail and tell your caddy, like, listen, I'm going to pay you like where we would have been. Your sponsors would love it, even though they want you to stay there and win. They're going to love it. You're a legend. That will be talked about forever.
Yep.
How many, like 25, 30 years from now, who's going to remember who won the 2024 Masters and by how much and how it happened? Nothing. But if you bail with a lead on Sunday to go to your wife because she's having your first child, then you're a legend. Now, if it's like kid number 2, I think stick around. If you haven't won a major or if you haven't won the Masters, probably stick. But I mean, it's first kid and you've already won one, you bail, and I think financially you're going to get more endorsements out of it. You're going to get more respect from people. People are going to talk about you all the time.
I think that's fair, and I had forgotten that he had won a Masters, so that does change the playing field for me.
Really, 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago, he took home a Masters. I don't know. I think you stick it out. I think you stick it out. I'm kind of leaning. I'm leaning that you stick it out. That you've got somebody kind of walking the course with you, who's giving you constant updates. That would have been an incredible story yesterday, where just sent some cameras. I think he's still residing in Texas. I believe he's still residing out in Dallas. I believe that's where he is indeed still living at or has moved to. He's originally from New Jersey, but I believe he has stayed in Dallas post-college and, of course, went to the University of Texas. But just go ahead and get some cameras out there, get him into the maternity ward.
Think about it, man. Think about he's making the turn. He's got a lead, and he walks off the course. That's a power move. That's a power move, and not to mention, forever you're like, sweetie, my buddy's in town. I'm going to the bar tonight. Like, you have that for the rest of your life. Like, I was going to win a major, and I bailed to be by your side.
I don't. But isn't that
for your kid too? When your kid won't clean up their room.
No, that's what I was going to go with this.
You know what I give up for you.
Yeah, that's more like if that kid turns out to be a brat or something, and I'm thinking I left to go deal with this. I don't know. It might be the other way. Now, on the flip side of this, a couple people have weighed in. 2 different texters. Imagine you stick it out and then end up losing.
Right, exactly. You can't run it. So you stick it out. You miss the birth of your child. Your wife's pissed at you, and you blew it. You take that all. You're a winner if you walk off the course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it's if you're someone like him who's going to be in contention for every major, why are you even having sex with your wife 8-9 months out? Like, you got a calendar. Do the math.
Oh yeah, now you're.
Don't even roll the dice on it.
Brian
it's your
Glenn,
career. It's your job.
Brian Glenn getting analytical this morning on the birth of a child.
Can't wait to hear the wife's response on that.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully she's not listening.
Yeah, exactly. How much cash will it take for me not to take the recording and send it to her?
Yeah.
I see some free pizza in my future.
Well, yeah, definitely free pizza. You're not going to do much with cash. She just gives me $50 on Mondays because I can't get into any trouble if I only have $50.
There you go.
That's a good point.
Or at least I can't get out of the time zone.
Yeah, there. Good point. Good point. All right, the expert, the pizza guru, Brian Glenn, joining us this morning, and then got into the analytics of baby making, which we do try to avoid on this program. I appreciate you bringing that into the early morning program, Brian. We look forward to seeing you in the very near future.
Yep, he's already hung up.
Oh, okay.
He's
right.
I think maybe he got a phone call. I'm guessing.
All of a sudden he realized his wife was indeed listening. 803-404-6100.
No, we did have Joe call, and he said, hands down, that decision was made before the tournament even happened. Like,
you can't make that. I don't think we'll come back. I'll get into this a little bit more. We'll get into baseball, South Carolina with the series victory down in Gainesville. You can't make that decision before. It's easy for us to make a decision when we're not in the moment. Totally different. 803-404-6100. We'll wrap up that little conversation and we'll get into some baseball as we return. You're listening to Bill Gunner. She's Jen Jensen. It's the early game. What is going on the game this week? Well, let me tell you, it all starts tomorrow. 6:45 pregame tomorrow night. South Carolina baseball down in Charleston. They'll take on the Citadel. And again, that'll be right here. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. Wednesday night, 6 p.m., right after Jay Phillips wraps up, we'll have Carolina Calls with head coach Mark Kingston as he gets you ready for the big series this weekend against Arkansas over at Founders Park. And Thursday night, be one of the last times we hear from Shane Beamer this spring. It'll be Carolina Calls with Coach Shane Beamer happening 6 p.m. And, of course, coming up on Saturday, we've got a big day. South Carolina baseball, 3 o'clock against Arkansas. And then the South Carolina spring game taking place coming up Saturday night, 7 o'clock over at Williams-Brice Stadium. So it's a big week. We've got baseball. We've got spring football. We got plenty right here on 107.5 The Game.
Congaree Road at Garner's Ferry Road, working that earlier tie-up, as well as Highway 1 at Fontaine Road and Two Notch Road near Emmanuel Church Road, definitely in the cleanup stages. Going to be in the 80s, mid to upper 80s most of the week. Might even hit 91 on Thursday. Could see some possible storms coming in, but not until maybe Saturday or Sunday. So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But right now, it's very nice. 61 on the early game.
Yeah, several of y'all weighing in. Rick saying, hey, millions of people have kids all the time. I'm staying and playing, getting that golf cash. Another texter says, what if your wife stays in labor for 48 hours like my son's wife did? He could have done both. That's a good point. Never know.
Well, I will say it is nice if you can be there to help support, not just be there for the actual delivery, because there's a little bit of, maybe discomfort or something going on for the mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be nice to offer a little something, unless she has flat out said, you know what, you're a distraction. But you won't know that until, again, you're in the moment, just like being at the Masters. So,
and that's the point. Like, you can't say, all right, well, we already had this planned out before. Like, you don't. That's the old, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And the wife or the doctor or the relative calling and being like, hey, Meredith, which is Scotty Scheffler's wife, hey, Meredith just got admitted. Baby due here in about 12 hours. Hop on the. That's the other thing. Like, I mean, ours, my two, I don't want to say were planned. They weren't C-sections, but it was kind of like, like, all right, we got it. So it was a little bit more than just like, we're in a bit of a rush. Because that's the other thing. Like you said, if Meredith, again, the wife, goes into labor, I guess she could have had the baby within 2 hours before the jet would have gotten back to Dallas.
Could have. And then you also think about, without, be laboring all of this, what if there's a complication during the delivery process?
Point.
So,
yeah.
So, maybe that ought to be thought about too. It's like not every delivery is just textbook and what you see on TV.
It's a good point. I know this is the reasons you tune in each and every morning, is the analytical breakdown of should a golfer leave his lead at the Masters to get home for the birth of his first child. And we appreciate all of you staying with us and continuing to weigh in with your opinions. One person did tell me, and I just don't remember. I remember watching it, but I didn't remember all the details, saying Mickelson didn't have a playoff. They didn't make it to Monday. I think that was also a Father's Day in which Payne Stewart won, if I'm thinking correctly, back in 90. It was 99, and I think that was a Father's Day in 99. And, of course, that was really, really sad because 4 months later is when Payne Stewart passed away in the plane incident. The plane crash 4 months later, so he didn't get a chance to defend his title. And I think that's when I want to say they went out somewhere, and they had the incredible opening Thursday in 2000. I think it was I want to say it was out of Pebble Beach, and they had the footsteps going into the fog, and it was real eerie but real cool. Back in 99 and 2000, I remember that. But we've also seen a few other instances of players trying to play through their wife being in potentially labor. So anyway, hey, if you want to weigh in on that, 803-404-6100, how you can do so on that. This morning we were talking a lot about baseball. Obviously, Jamie Bradford talking a good bit and discussing South Carolina. I think us have to look at the big picture scenario here, and that's that South Carolina, for all that we want to talk bad about them, or it seems like a lot of people want to talk bad. Gamecock Larry calling in this morning and complaining and talking about it. South Carolina last week plays 4 games against ranked opponents, North Carolina, and then 3, obviously, against Florida. And they go 3-1. And as we sit here today, they are, I mean, look, they're not top 10. They're not 5. They're not where they were last year. I get it. But they're in a fine spot, 25-11 on the season, 8-7 in conference play. Tied for 3rd in the East with Vanderbilt, and I guess South Carolina in a tiebreaker scenario would be ahead of Vanderbilt given the sweep the Gamecocks had of the Commodores. Now, the next 2 weekends are, I don't know if vital is the right word, but you've got a chance to really improve your regional stock. Maybe even put yourself, Jamie, I was a little surprised. I didn't press him on this. I think what Jamie meant, or Jamie is saying, is that as of right now, South Carolina would be a top 16 seed, which means they would be hosting. Now, D1 baseball later on this morning. I always go to D1 baseball. Some people might go to Baseball America. Some people might go to Perfect Game. It's fine. But I always go to D1 baseball. D1 baseball later on this morning will put out their updated top 25. They'll also probably put out tomorrow their latest bracketology. And the one that I saw last week, the Gamecocks were not projected to be a host team. And I don't know if last week changed enough to necessarily make them a host team. But the Gamecocks hosting a regional, however they arrive there, that checks one box that you're supposed to do at South Carolina. Getting to a super regional, whether you're on the road or you're hosting, to me, that does check a second box. And then obviously going to the College World Series is something that is always the cherry on top. But you look at where this team is and you look at what they did this past weekend, some really good baseball played. You've got, again, Dalton Reeves, who is just tearing the cover off of the ball right now. His performance was fantastic. Cole Messina, Jamie Bradford talked a little bit about that. Cole Messina being moved into the leadoff role. And this past weekend, 6 for 13 was Messina. A very strong weekend for him down in Gainesville. He's the guy that, and Jamie told the story of Cole Messina basically going to Mark Kingston and saying, put me in the leadoff spot. I'm the Energizer Bunny. I'm the guy that can get this team going. And this weekend, again, Messina was 6 of 13, 4 runs scored, and 3 RBIs. Cole Messina now on a 13-game hitting streak. And then a guy who's quietly just doing his thing, having a great season, Parker Noland, and what he's doing. And Noland has had a 23 consecutive game reached base streak right now that he's on. So 23 consecutive games that Parker Noland has been able to reach base. And you look at him, he's batting .278 on the season. He's got 35 hits. Ethan Petrie's doing his thing, batting .325. Dylan Brewer's batting .324. Kennedy Jones is batting .316. It still, to me, feels like this team could easily flip a switch and get blazing hot over these last 5 series. We're at the halfway point, 8-7, 15 games, 5 series left to go. You've got Arkansas and Kentucky, then you got Missouri and Georgia, and you wrap up on the road at Tennessee. It feels like this team could get very hot, maybe finish 11-4, 10-5 down the stretch. I also feel that this team, because of the competition, 3 teams that are currently top 15 teams, and Arkansas, Kentucky, and and Tennessee, it feels like this team could really struggle down the home stretch and put themselves in a precarious situation as it does pertain to the NCAA tournament. But as we sit here on April the 15th, we sit here at the midway point of the SEC play, I think you've got to be pleased with where they're at. Of course, there are small things that they could do, that they could fine-tune, that would make them a better team. There are some games that you would really wish to have back. I go back and point really at that Alabama game, game 1 in Tuscaloosa, in which the Gamecocks not only had a 3-1 lead, but then also had the great opportunities in the 8th inning and couldn't pull it out. And then Alabama was able to score in the 8th, and the Gamecocks lost in the 9th. But this team, again, I know a lot of you want to see more success. You're accustomed to it. I do think, the more I thought about this, I can't remember if it was last week, beginning of last week, where I compared South Carolina baseball to Tennessee women's basketball with what is expected of the program, which is why you saw Tennessee just make a change in coaches, even though they were a banked 3 away from getting to the SEC tournament championship game, while they also got to a Sweet 16, and yet it still wasn't good enough. Fans here have a very, very high level of expectation, and that's great. If you're a baseball coach and you come here, as Mark Kingston did, if you're winning, people love you. I mean, you get recognized everywhere. It's different. But if you're losing, you get criticized. Now, that doesn't happen everywhere. Georgia right now is not paying any attention to their baseball team. There are other schools that don't pay attention. The SEC is entirely different, and that is what you take. Mark Kingston took as he took this job. He gets a lot of attention, and right now, though, I think they're okay. 25-11 again, 8-7, 8-7 in conference, 18-4 at home on the season, 5-6 away from Founders Park. And again, reminder, tomorrow night, 6:45 pregame show, 7 o'clock first pitch. Gamecocks head down to Charleston to take on the Citadel. And again, this coming Friday, Arkansas, the number one team, at least as of right now. Arkansas did drop 2 of 3 this past weekend. Arkansas rolls into town. 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to so choose to do so. We'll get back into some Masters, talk a little baseball, and again, get into some spring football. And I did this earlier, but I'll update again. The Cam Scott situation. If you didn't hear, some potential big news for South Carolina basketball, at least as it pertains to Cam Scott. We'll tell you a little bit about what's going on there when we return. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Oh, boy. All right. If you haven't heard Jen's weather report, sounds like 91 or at least the low 90s later on in the week. Well, now we're talking about having to cut the air conditioner on. Personally, I love that. I'm exhausted from cutting on the heat. I'm exhausted from being hot. Well, AAA Heating and Air is ready to make sure that cutting the air conditioner on is no problem this summer. Right now, they're offering you a free estimate to find out what you would need to repair, or excuse me, to get a brand new heating and air unit. That's right, a free estimate on a brand new heating and air unit. And if you indeed buy that heating and air unit, guess what? No interest, no payments until 2025. So call AAA Heating and Air today. Get new comfort in your home tomorrow with a phone call today. 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Contact AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Congaree Road at Garner's Ferry Road, working an accident there, as well as Augusta Highway at Fontaine Road. Also, an accident out there, I-20 westbound after Clemson Road. Summer-like forecast this week, 89 today. We stay in the mid to upper 80s through about Saturday. Might even hit 91 on Thursday. And could see some storms rolling in for the weekend, but we'll take these warmer temperatures this week for sure. Right now, 61 on the early game.
$8:35 as we get you going here on a Monday morning. Tax day. Oh, boy. All kinds of good stuff. Coming off of the Masters. Incredible sports weekend. South Carolina baseball, 2 of 3 there. They take 2 of 3 from the Florida Gators. You had the Masters. And you know what else you had yesterday? The end of the NBA season. It came to a conclusion. Now, you probably didn't pay attention. I mean, quite frankly, they already played 81 games. What's going to happen in game 82? The play-in games start tomorrow night. Western Conference. Lakers taking on the Pelicans and the Warriors at the Kings. That'll start tomorrow night. Then the Eastern Conference will take place on Wednesday night. The Heat at the 76ers, the Hawks at the Bulls. Yeah, I don't really – look, it's playoff season. I'll get more into the NBA. I won't make you necessarily follow along. But what I will make you listen to is when people are given an opportunity to win free stuff. Free stuff is great. And if you've been to Colonial Life Arena, you're aware of the promotion for free chicken. Free chicken, Jen. Now, we all know, or at least I shouldn't say we all know, chicken is delicious. Big fan. Cooked some over the weekend. Free chicken is even better.
Tastes even better.
Tastes even better. Yesterday at Crypto.com Arena out in Los Angeles, it was the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Clippers. Free chicken was on the line. And the man of the people, Boban Marjanovic, stepped to the line. He's got to miss both free throws to get free chicken. Again, y'all are well aware of this promotion. Now, I got to admit, Boban doesn't play a whole lot. Yesterday, he played a season high yesterday. He played 12 minutes. Played 12 minutes yesterday, season high. If you really haven't followed Boban Marjanovic, of course, he's 7'4". He's huge. Physically, he's massive. He's a good basketball player, but he's 7'4". Makes him an even better basketball player. But the man has done really well. He's been in some movies. He's been in the State Farm commercials. He is a character, an incredible character. He's going to have a life after the NBA because of kind of a personality that he's built for himself. Really good. Well, yesterday, he's at the line. He goes to the line. He's already missed the first free throw. Here's the call from the Los Angeles Clippers commentators on whether Boban would give the – Boban is playing for the Rockets, mind you. Boban is playing for the Rockets. They are playing the Clippers. They are at Crypto.com Arena, which is where the Clippers play at. Here's the call. There you go, Boban Marjanovic. You can see the video again. If you're unfamiliar with who I'm talking about, he's the guy at State Farm commercials. Big 7'4" guy. I think he might even do Goldfish commercials now. I believe might even do Goldfish because I've seen him putting his hand in and taking a whole bunch of.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Those commercials, and he's a guy who again has done a heck of a job, kind of using his NBA celebrity status to almost further his other career. But really funny, and you can see it. He's actually there. The Rockets won the game. The game was irrelevant to both teams. The Rockets were eliminated from the playoffs. The Clippers were already locked in to face the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs. So the game meant absolutely nothing. And Boban, who again, by the way, is a free agent. This was maybe slight audition to be like, oh, next year I'm a free agent, Los Angeles. Maybe you want me to come sit on the end of your bench and be 7'4", sitting at the end of your bench. But he's a guy that
I have chicken connections, so I can,
He missed. He won the opposing team free chicken by missing his 2 free throws for the Rockets. What a generous guy. A generous opposing player. Actually, really funny. If you see the video, the fans are going nuts. Boban's even into it.
He was having a blast.
He even
he
celebrated with the opposing team. Really good stuff. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you want to do so. Yesterday, Jen, I tell you what, Dawn Staley spoke. She spoke. One of the things she talked about was expect the unexpected. This was after the parade yesterday. South Carolina being honored for their national championship parade right down here on Main Street, wrapping up at the State House. And Dawn Staley yesterday talking about expect the unexpected. Here's what she had to say.
But at the beginning of this season, I don't know why I said this. They actually asked me to say something on camera. Give me one word that's going to describe our season this year. And like me, I said, expect the unexpected. I don't know why I said it, but I said it. And because I felt like we had enough on paper, whether that ends up in a national championship level or not, I didn't know. But again, these players actually, and I have to go to our theme of this year, these players loved up on each other, unconditionally created a bond that created a heightened level of competitiveness to say, you can play us for a quarter, you can play us for 2 quarters, you can play us for 3 quarters. But by the time that 4th quarter comes around, we aren't going to lose.
That was Dawn Staley yesterday. And, yeah, it's to her point, you had teams that played them close, played them tough, and South Carolina would just kind of wear you down and take over. We saw what they did against LSU in the regular season. Tennessee gets beat at the buzzer, and even the Iowa championship game, South Carolina makes the plays there at the end of the first half, the steal and layup by Raven Johnson, her only basket of the game, shot 1 of 11, the only basket of the game, but South Carolina wore them down and ended up winning the game. So now the parade is done. The net has been cut down. Everything is done. And unfortunately, and I'm being dead honest about this, unfortunately, when you return as many players as South Carolina is going to do, when you are the University of South Carolina under Dawn Staley, attention turns quickly to 2024, 2025. Almost like there's no time. All right, we've celebrated. We've done all we need to. We've celebrated you. Good job. You won a championship. Now do it again. Tahina Paopao yesterday said it's time for a repeat tour.
Well, on behalf of my team and I, first and foremost, we got to give all the glory to God. Champs, we wouldn't be undefeated, and we just got to thank him for giving us a healthy season and bringing us to this long season. And second, we just want to thank everyone who supported us throughout this journey. Thank our athletic staff, our band, our fans, you guys, and especially our coaching staff who brought this group of girls together to love each other, play selflessly, and just compete and have fun with each other. And lastly, in the words of Raven Crockpot Johnson, it's time for a repeat tour.
There you go. Celebration's done. It's a new week. It's a new season. It starts today. Where will they find their motivation? That's going to be the really interesting thing. They're great. They're going to be the best team in the country next year. There's going to be some really good teams. Connecticut is going to be fine. Southern Cal is going to be really good. I think LSU, we'll see what they do with losing Haley Van Lith and Angel Reese, but they've got some players there. They're not going away. Still, the best team in the country resides right here in Columbia at Colonial Life Arena with the best coach in the country. So how do they handle that next year? It's going to be really fun to talk about as we get to November. But yesterday, great parade, great job by the city of Columbia putting that on. And from what I understand, I was not down there. I was watching the Masters back at my house. But from what I understand, absolutely incredible, phenomenal crowd turning. And I understand it was absolutely packed. 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up. We'll wrap up the Monday morning episode of the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. For nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the proven leader in the roofing and the waterproofing industry, and it is their history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. That's why I trust in Mid-State Roofing. That's why I believe you should trust in them as well. Give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract to protect that roof, 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web as well, midstateroofing.com. Again, that phone call to call and line up that maintenance contract for protection, 803-356-1919. From high-rises to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. Give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Final segment of the morning. Preston Thorne will be back tomorrow. We'll get his take on a couple different things, including Dawn Staley. I held a clip today. She was speaking on uncommon favor, and I will play a little bit of that tomorrow, and we'll let Preston eloquently talk about that. Thorns, Buds, and Roses, as well as J.C. Sherbert, all set for tomorrow. Patrick DeMarco will be in studio with us coming up on Friday, as we will start to look ahead to the spring game. Again, reminder, we do have some Carolina calls this week. Wednesday night, it'll be 6 p.m. Carolina calls with Coach Mark Kingston. And Thursday night, we will get more information from Shane Beamer. Carolina calls with Coach Beamer Thursday night right here at 107.5 The Game. And that will lead us into what should be another great weekend. We'll have the Heritage taking place down in Hilton Head and, of course, the Carolina Spring Game. There were several spring games around the Southeast. One of those was in Mississippi, where Lane Kiffin, who's always entertaining, Lane Kiffin talking about the Grove Bowl games. Here's what Lane Kiffin had to say about his spring game this past weekend.
All right, I thought that was really neat. I thought a lot went into that, and may not seem like it, but I guess kind of now I have appreciation for shows or concerts and different things that have to happen. So spent a lot of time in different walkthroughs of events and orders and changing ideas up. So thought it went really good, and the number one thing was no injuries. So a lot of times you stand up here after a spring game and got to go through a medical report after this with the doctors and the trainer. So that's really good. But I just thought it was pretty neat to see guys compete, and a lot of people doing different events, and then the team down and blue team I think down, and Joey to tag in and help the blue team out for the win was pretty neat. So I hope our fans enjoyed it. I know our players did, and so we actually have one more light practice probably Monday to officially end spring with the 15th day. But I thought it was a really good spring for what we wanted accomplished. Maybe not what other people do as far as staying healthy and getting a lot of reps and work without a lot of tackling.
Now you ask, okay, what is he referring to? Why was it different? Well, this is interesting for spring games and how they go and what the future of spring games may always be, kind of like all-star games. Instead of holding a mock game or a game, if you will, Kiffin and his staff decided to really hold what they called a glorified practice. They opted to have a 7-on-7 competition between their healthy skill players. All right, that's no different. How much are we really getting out of that? Mississippi also proceeded to have mini games in between quarters of competition. One of the mini games was a dunk contest. They also had a tug of war. They had a hot dog eating contest, and they also had relay races. So they basically made it
like the Pro Bowl.
Similar to the Pro Bowl with a little 7-on-7 mixed in, but they were they were just 7-on-7 shorts and pads, nothing overly serious. I am interested as we go into the future of college football and what's going on. If coaches are willing to do this, almost make it more about the fans than the players, if you will, because they got their work in. They did some 7-on-7. Mississippi did. But as we wait to hear from Shane Beamer, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's Thursday night, on the format of the South Carolina spring game, and I'm open to anything. I know the first year, due to injuries, because of injuries, South Carolina wasn't able to have, first year of Shane Beamer, they weren't able to have your typical spring game. They had to kind of change it around a little bit, do a lot more practicing, and then they were able to have some scrimmaging, and it was only essentially about a half. But I don't know how you would feel about that. We'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow morning when we discuss with Preston Thorn, how a spring game is really prepared for and how it goes. Because you've had 14 practices, and certainly you don't want to waste a practice, but should it be a little bit more about the fans, where you do this kind of thing, where you make it a little bit more fan friendly? I remember going to games back in the days when I was little, and I've seen pictures too, where the winning team got steaks and the losing team got hot dogs, and fans were kind of invited to mingle with the players after the game.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
It is what do you do with these spring games? One, you got to avoid injury. You definitely want to avoid injury. But what else can you do to really have everything, I think, make fan friendly, if you will? Now, South Carolina's done a couple of the concerts. We've seen concerts take place back in the day. I don't know the exact. I'll pull up the details for this weekend's big Gamecock weekend, by the way, because you have a lot going on with South Carolina athletics this coming week. We've talked a lot about the Arkansas baseball game and what will be taking place there. You've also got other sports that are participating, so we'll get into a lot of that as we go through the week. But that's why I play that Mississippi clip from Lane Kiffin about what they labeled as the Grove Bowl games. And it is officially spring game season, and we'll wrap it up here in Columbia. Clemson having theirs this past weekend up at Memorial Stadium. South Carolina scheduled to have theirs this coming weekend. Georgia and Alabama and LSU all having theirs this past weekend as well. So a lot going on as we roll through here the end of spring. RBC Heritage set to get going this morning. Also Monday after the Masters taking place down in Myrtle Beach. So a lot to finish up after this weekend. It's Major League Baseball and Gamecock Baseball. After this weekend, Major League Baseball and Gamecock Baseball. We'll get you ready for all of that, though. We'll have a Braves report. Interesting weekend for the Braves. They rally in the ninth yesterday. Marcell Ozuna with a 3-run homer for the Braves to hold on over the Marlins and win that series. It's been a lot of fun. Preston Thorne will be back in tomorrow. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Jen and I will be back tomorrow. See you then.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. All that demolition that we had to do in our kitchen and meant installing new cabinets, and that was something I just was not looking forward to doing. But I'll tell you what, CHW Cabinetry made it so much better. They helped us figure out what cabinets we would prefer, some of the accessories that might be really good for us at this point in our lives, and then once we had all that picked out and everything was measured, we got the photorealistic renderings that showed us what our kitchen was going to look like when it was finished, which helped us then take those pictures and go pick out things like backsplash and countertops and flooring and all of that. So it was very, very helpful. But they do more than kitchens. If you have a pantry that maybe needs to be more functional, your closet, it's like, oh, this could be organized a little bit better. They can certainly help with that as well, even create a workspace for you. Just visit chwcabinetry.com or call them today, 803-520-6837. Be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation.
All right, on the roads this morning, we're still looking at a few problems. Bush River Road near I-20, Congaree Road at Garner's Ferry, 20 west after Clemson Road, that's exit 90, and Old Cherokee at Old Chapin. Today's high should be up to 89. Going to be a nice warm week for you. Sunny skies today. We're not expecting any rain. Partly cloudy tomorrow, 88 for a high, 64 for an overnight low. How about that? 85 on Wednesday, 91 on Thursday. So 3 days of spring, and then summer rolls in with 63 degrees for overnight low. This is Captain Dave, WIS-TV Traffic Center.
Nine o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you here on The Game. Oh, boy, what a busy weekend it was. Obviously, had the Masters going on, had some great baseball action. Obviously, Caroline was on the road down there in Gainesville, picking up a much-needed series victory. And, of course, you had yesterday here in downtown Columbia a wonderful, wonderful championship parade celebrating another national championship for the South Carolina women's basketball team, third in the past 8 years, and a very, very strong showing from everybody coming out to celebrate that yesterday. I believe I saw 16,000 people starting to look that way. Seeing all the pictures and videos, just everybody lining the street and everybody around the State House when when Dawn Staley and the players were up there speaking. So a great weekend all around. Highlighted by that wonderful parade with, again, celebrating another national championship for Dawn Staley and company. Third of what is hopefully many, many more national championships to come. And Dawn's been here for a long time now, and it just seems like they are finally truly, I don't want to say now hitting their stride, but they are in the midst of the best that this program is. And obviously when you win a national championship as an undefeated team, something that's only been done 9 times prior in the history of, women's college basketball, that is certainly something to, to hang your hat on and hopefully build momentum going into another season. I do think it's interesting, the story of this year with South Carolina women's basketball, what the expectations were from a national and local standpoint as well. We knew they were going to be good, but we didn't know just how good they were going to be when you were replacing all the talent that you had lost from a season ago. And obviously they exceeded everyone's expectations.